Cottage cheese looks like a health food. Creamy white curds, high in protein, low in carbs. Doctors recommend it for seniors. But what if the brand in your fridge is hiding dangerous bacteria, sky-high sodium, or additives that mess with your heart medication? Today, we expose 9 cottage cheese brands you need to avoid at all costs, and 2 that are actually safe. Coming in at number 9, we have Breakstone's cottage cheese. Breakstone's has been a household name for generations. Your mother probably had it in her refrigerator, your grandmother too. The packaging promises wholesome dairy goodness, simple ingredients, and that classic creamy taste you remember from decades past. They market themselves as a trusted family brand, something you can rely on without a second thought. Walk down any dairy aisle in America, and you will see that familiar blue container sitting there like an old friend. But here is what Breakstone's does not advertise on that familiar blue container. In recent years, Breakstone's parent company Kraft Heinz has faced multiple FDA warning letters regarding manufacturing facility conditions. Inspectors documented issues with temperature control during storage and transport. For cottage cheese, temperature is everything. When curds sit even slightly above safe temperatures for extended periods, bacterial colonies begin multiplying invisibly. You cannot see them. You cannot smell them at first. But they are there, doubling every 20 minutes in the danger zone. The surface looks pristine, the color appears normal, but beneath that innocent appearance, millions of bacteria could be thriving. For seniors, this is not just an inconvenience. It is a genuine health threat. Listeria monocytogenes thrives in dairy products that have been temperature abused. According to the CDC, adults over 65 are 4 times more likely to develop serious Listeria infections than the general population. And for those on immunosuppressive medications or managing chronic conditions, the risk climbs even higher. A Listeria infection in a healthy young adult might mean a few days of discomfort. In a senior with compromised immunity, it can mean hospitalization, organ failure, or worse. The creamy texture you trust could be harboring invisible danger. That familiar taste might come with a side of fever, muscle aches, and for some seniors, hospitalization. But sodium is another concern entirely. Breakstone's small curd cottage cheese contains over 400 milligrams of sodium per serving. That is nearly 20% of the daily recommended limit for someone managing high blood pressure. Most seniors eat more than 1 serving at a time. 2 servings and you have consumed almost half your sodium budget before lunch. 3 servings and you are approaching dangerous territory for anyone on blood pressure medication. The American Heart Association reports that excess sodium intake is directly linked to increased blood pressure, stroke risk, and heart disease, the leading killer of Americans over 65. Breakstone's promises comfort and nutrition. What they deliver may be quietly straining your cardiovascular system with every spoonful. Your doctor tells you to watch your salt. The cottage cheese label tells you this is a healthy choice. Something does not add up, and they promised this was safe. They promised this was healthy. But the truth is hiding in plain sight, and most people never think to look. Why do you think brands can get away with calling high-sodium foods heart healthy? The answer might surprise you. At number 8, we have Daisy brand cottage cheese. Daisy has built its entire reputation on simplicity. Their marketing is genius, really. Clean white packaging, a single daisy flower. The tagline says it all, only the good stuff. They promise no artificial ingredients, no preservatives, no gums or fillers. Just pure, simple cottage cheese the way it should be made. In a grocery store filled with products containing ingredients you cannot pronounce, Daisy stands out as refreshingly straightforward. Seniors flock to Daisy because it feels trustworthy. It feels honest. In a world of complicated ingredient lists and chemical-sounding additives, Daisy seems like a breath of fresh air. When you read the ingredient list and actually understand every word, it gives you confidence. That confidence might be misplaced, but simple does not always mean safe. Consumer Reports testing found that some Daisy cottage cheese samples contained higher than expected bacterial counts, suggesting potential lapses in sanitation during production. The curds looked fresh. The smell seemed normal, but laboratory analysis revealed what the human senses could not detect. Under a microscope, those white curds told a very different story than what your eyes saw in the dairy aisle. For younger, healthy adults, elevated bacterial counts might cause nothing more than mild digestive upset. But for seniors, especially those taking proton pump inhibitors for acid reflux or antibiotics for other conditions, the stomach's natural defenses are compromised. Bacteria that would normally be destroyed by stomach acid can survive, multiply, and cause serious gastrointestinal infections. What passes through a 30-year-old system without incident could land a 70-year-old in the emergency room. And there is something else Daisy does not mention prominently. While they avoid artificial preservatives, this also means their product has a shorter, safe window once opened. Many seniors buy cottage cheese and keep it in the refrigerator for a week or more, eating a little each day. Without preservatives, bacterial growth accelerates faster than in preserved alternatives. That container you opened 5 days ago may look and smell perfectly fine while harboring dangerous levels of contamination. The surface shows no warning signs. The texture feels normal, but the clock has been ticking since you broke that seal. The FDA estimates that foodborne illness hospitalizes over 128,000 Americans annually, with adults over 65 representing a disproportionate share of severe cases. Daisy promises purity, but purity without proper handling protocols can become a pathway for pathogens. Most people never learn how to spot these hidden dangers, but we will break it down at the end of the video. The texture is still creamy. The curds still look pristine, but what you cannot see could be the biggest risk of all. Now at number 7, we have Friendship Cottage Cheese. Friendship has been making cottage cheese since 1900, over 120 years of dairy tradition. Their branding emphasizes heritage, family values, and time-tested recipes passed down through generations. For seniors who remember when food companies actually cared about quality, Friendship feels like a connection to a simpler, safer time. The vintage styling on their packaging reinforces this message. It whispers of a gentler era when ingredients were real and manufacturers took pride in their products. The reality is far more complicated. Friendship Cottage Cheese contains carrageenan, a seaweed-derived thickening agent that has sparked significant controversy in the scientific community. While the FDA considers food-grade carrageenan safe, numerous peer-reviewed studies have linked it to gastrointestinal inflammation, particularly in individuals with sensitive digestive systems. The debate has raged for years, but if you are a senior already dealing with digestive issues, do you really want to take that chance? A 2017 review published in the journal Environmental Health Perspectives found that carrageenan exposure triggered inflammatory responses in intestinal tissue, even at concentrations found in typical food products. For seniors already managing inflammatory conditions, irritable bowel syndrome, or colitis, this additive could be silently worsening their symptoms. You blame your age, you blame stress, you blame that new medication, but maybe you should be blaming your cottage cheese. But inflammation is not the only concern. Friendship Dairies has faced complaints about inconsistent quality control across different production facilities. Some batches arrive fresh and creamy, others have an unusual grainy texture or slightly sour smell that suggests the product was not handled properly somewhere along the supply chain. One week you get exactly what you expected. The next week, something feels off. You cannot quite put your finger on it, but the texture is different. The taste has changed. When you are 70 years old and your immune system is not what it used to be, you cannot afford to play Russian roulette with your dairy products. One bad batch could mean days of digestive distress or worse. Friendship promises old-fashioned quality, but old-fashioned does not always mean safe. Sometimes it means outdated manufacturing practices that have not kept pace with modern food safety standards. The cottage cheese in your refrigerator might look exactly like it did in 1950, but the bacteria growing inside it are very much modern threats. Isn't it strange how these companies keep selling products with questionable additives while slapping heritage and tradition on the label? Makes you wonder what else they are not telling us. Coming in at number 6, we have Kroger brand cottage cheese. Kroger is the largest supermarket chain in America. Their store brand products line shelves in thousands of locations across the country. Millions of seniors choose Kroger cottage cheese every week because it is affordable, convenient, and seems like a sensible choice for budget-conscious shoppers living on fixed incomes. When Social Security only goes so far, every dollar saved at the grocery store matters. The Kroger brand sits right next to the name brands, often at half the price. The price is right, but the quality may not be. Store-brand cottage cheese is typically produced by contract manufacturers who also make products for name brands. The difference is in the specifications. Name brands often demand stricter quality controls, higher-grade milk, and more rigorous testing protocols. Store brands get the same facilities, but with lower standards. The machinery is the same. The workers are the same, but the attention to detail changes depending on whose label goes on the container. FDA inspection reports from facilities supplying Kroger dairy products have documented issues, including inadequate cleaning procedures between production runs, improper employee hygiene practices, and temperature deviations during storage. These are not isolated incidents. They represent systemic patterns that put consumers at risk. When the same problems appear in report after report, year after year, that tells you something about priorities. For seniors managing diabetes, Kroger cottage cheese presents another hidden danger. Some varieties contain added sugars or modified food starch to improve texture and taste. These additives can cause unexpected blood sugar spikes, making it harder to maintain glycemic control throughout the day. Your glucose monitor jumps and you wonder why. You ate cottage cheese, which is supposed to be healthy, but the ingredient list tells a story the front label never mentioned. You pick up the container thinking you are making a healthy choice. The front label says protein-rich and nutritious, but the ingredient list tells a different story, and most people never flip the container over to read it. The American Diabetes Association reports that over 25% of Americans aged 65 and older have diabetes. Another 50% have prediabetes. Every hidden sugar, every unexpected carbohydrate pushes blood glucose higher and increases the risk of complications. Nerve damage, vision problems, kidney disease. The stakes could not be higher. Kroger promises value. They promise quality you can trust. But when inspectors find sanitation issues and hidden ingredients lurk in the fine print, trust becomes a dangerous assumption. Most people have no idea how to read labels properly to protect themselves. Stick around. The solution is coming at the very end. If this helps you stay safer at the store, hit subscribe. It is free, and it means you will never miss these exposes. At number 5, we have Good Culture Cottage Cheese. Good Culture burst onto the market with sleek, modern packaging and trendy marketing that screams health-conscious millennial. But seniors have discovered them too, drawn in by promises of grass-fed milk, live active cultures, and clean, simple ingredients. The branding feels premium. The price reflects it, often double what traditional cottage cheese costs. When you pay more, you expect more. You expect safety. You expect quality. You expect transparency. You would think paying more would guarantee safety. You would be wrong. Good Culture positions itself as a probiotic-rich alternative to traditional cottage cheese. They add live active cultures, the same beneficial bacteria found in yogurt, and market this as a gut health benefit. For many people, it probably is. Probiotics can support digestive health and immune function. The science is real, but the application is not universal. But for seniors on certain medications, live bacterial cultures are not always beneficial. Immunosuppressive drugs, commonly prescribed after organ transplants or for autoimmune conditions, deliberately weaken the immune system. When your immune defenses are compromised, even beneficial bacteria can become opportunistic pathogens. What helps a healthy 30-year-old could hospitalize a 70-year-old on immunosuppressive therapy. The same probiotics that strengthen one person's gut could overwhelm another person's defenses. Doctors rarely warn patients about this. The interaction between live culture foods and immunosuppressive medications is not prominently discussed in patient education materials. Seniors assume cottage cheese is cottage cheese, safe, simple, and benign. Nobody tells them that the premium product they are paying extra for could be the one that puts them in danger. Good Culture does not put warnings on their packaging. They do not suggest consulting a physician before consumption if you are immunocompromised. They simply market the live cultures as an unqualified benefit, leaving vulnerable consumers to discover the risks the hard way. The label celebrates what should come with a caution, and then there is the sodium issue. Despite the health-forward branding, some Good Culture varieties contain over 300 milligrams of sodium per serving. For seniors carefully monitoring their salt intake to manage hypertension, this premium cottage cheese could be quietly undermining their cardiovascular health. The label says healthy. Your blood pressure says otherwise. The packaging looks clean. The marketing sounds scientific. But premium prices do not guarantee premium safety, especially for seniors with complex health profiles. Why are foods with live cultures never labeled with warnings for immunocompromised people? Do you think companies even consider seniors when they design these products? Number 4 brings us to Prairie Farms Cottage Cheese. Prairie Farms is a farmer-owned cooperative based in the Midwest. Their marketing emphasizes American values, family farms, and wholesome dairy produced by hardworking people who care about their communities. For seniors who value supporting local agriculture, Prairie Farms feels like the right choice. There is something comforting about buying from farmers instead of faceless corporations. The imagery of rolling fields and red barns speaks to a simpler time. The sentiment is admirable. The food safety record is less inspiring. Prairie Farms has faced multiple recalls over the past decade due to contamination concerns. In 2019, a recall affected cottage cheese products distributed across multiple states due to potential foreign material contamination. Imagine opening your cottage cheese and finding something that does not belong there. A piece of plastic, a metal fragment, something that should never be in food. You dip your spoon in expecting creamy curds and feel something hard scrape against the edge. For seniors with dental work, dentures, or sensitive digestive systems, foreign material contamination is not just unpleasant, it is dangerous. A sharp fragment could damage dental work costing thousands of dollars. Swallowed foreign material could cause internal injuries or blockages requiring medical intervention. What should have been breakfast could become a trip to the emergency room. But physical contamination is only part of the picture. FDA inspection reports from Prairie Farms facilities have noted concerns about pest control and equipment sanitation. Inspectors documented evidence of rodent activity in storage areas adjacent to production lines. While the company implemented corrective actions, the pattern of findings raises questions about overall quality control culture. When inspectors keep finding the same problems visit after visit, you have to wonder if the corrections are real or just temporary fixes until the inspectors leave. The cottage cheese looks fine. The curds are white and fresh-looking. But somewhere between the farm and your refrigerator, contamination may have occurred that no human sense can detect. Prairie Farms promises farm-fresh quality. They promise the care and attention of family farmers who take pride in their products. But when recalls happen and inspectors find rodent evidence, those promises ring hollow. You deserve to know what is really happening behind the wholesome marketing. And you deserve better than contamination risks hiding in plain sight. Do you think recalls are accidents? Or just the ones they actually got caught on? Makes you wonder what else slips through undetected. Now we reach number 3. Walmart Great Value Cottage Cheese. Great Value is Walmart's house brand, found in virtually every Walmart store across America. For seniors on tight budgets, Great Value Cottage Cheese represents significant savings, often costing half what name brands charge. When you are living on Social Security, every dollar matters. The Great Value label promises that you do not have to pay premium prices for everyday essentials. It sounds like a smart way to stretch your grocery budget. But cheap comes with costs that do not show up at the register. Great Value products are manufactured by various contract producers who bid for Walmart's business. The company that made your cottage cheese this month might not be the same company that makes it next month. Consistency suffers. Quality control becomes fragmented. And accountability becomes nearly impossible to trace. When something goes wrong, nobody knows who to blame. The supply chain is a maze of anonymous producers. Consumer complaints about Great Value Cottage Cheese include reports of unusual textures, off-putting odors, and packages that appear bloated or compromised before the expiration date. Bloated packaging is a serious warning sign. It indicates bacterial growth producing gas inside the sealed container. The curds may look normal, but the bacteria are actively multiplying. That swollen lid is not a packaging defect. It is a biological process happening inside your food. For seniors, the risks compound. Many Great Value cottage cheese varieties are high in sodium, some containing over 450 milligrams per serving. Combined with the budget-conscious portion sizes that often lead people to eat more than one serving, sodium intake can spiral quickly. A single sitting of cottage cheese could deliver a quarter of your daily sodium limit. That one container you thought was a healthy snack just pushed your numbers into dangerous territory. The American Heart Association specifically warns adults over 50 about sodium's cumulative effects on blood pressure. Years of excess sodium intake contribute to arterial stiffness, left ventricular hypertrophy, and increased stroke risk. Great Value cottage cheese might save you money today while costing you health tomorrow. The savings at checkout could mean expenses at the pharmacy. Walmart promises everyday low prices. They promise quality you can trust. But when the supplier changes constantly and complaints pile up about compromised products, trust becomes a luxury budget shoppers cannot afford. The price tag is appealing. The hidden health costs are not. Do not go yet. The solution comes at the very end, and it could change how you shop forever. What is the worst cottage cheese you have ever opened? Drop it in the comments below. At number 2, we have Kemps Cottage Cheese. Kemps is a regional dairy brand popular in the upper Midwest. Their cottage cheese has been a refrigerator staple in Minnesota, Wisconsin, and surrounding states for decades. Local brand loyalty runs deep. Generations of families have trusted Kemps for their dairy needs. When you grew up eating Kemps, it feels like family. It feels like home. Regional trust does not guarantee regional safety. Kemps Cottage Cheese contains locust bean gum, a thickening agent derived from carob seeds. While generally recognized as safe by the FDA, locust bean gum has been associated with digestive issues in sensitive individuals. Some seniors report bloating, gas, and gastrointestinal discomfort after consuming products containing this additive. You eat your cottage cheese expecting nutrition and end up spending the afternoon uncomfortable and wondering what went wrong. For seniors already dealing with digestive slowdown, a natural consequence of aging, additional gums and thickeners can exacerbate problems. The digestive system at 70 does not process food the same way it did at 30. Additives that younger people tolerate without issue can cause significant discomfort in older adults. Your body cannot handle what it used to handle. That is not a flaw, that is biology. But the food industry does not seem to care. But additives are only part of the Kemps concern. In 2023, Kemps faced scrutiny after consumer complaints about premature spoilage reached critical mass on social media. Customers reported opening containers well before the expiration date to find curdled, sour-smelling product that was clearly unsafe to eat. The company attributed issues to cold chain disruptions during distribution. The cottage cheese looked wrong, it smelled wrong, and it was supposed to be fresh for another week. Cold chain management is critical for dairy safety. From the moment cottage cheese leaves the production facility until it reaches your refrigerator, temperature must remain consistently cold. Any gap, a delivery truck running warm, a warehouse door left open, a grocery store display case malfunctioning, can compromise product safety invisibly. You trusted the expiration date. The expiration date lied. Kemps promised that Midwestern quality you remember from childhood. Fresh from local farms, made with care by people who understand dairy. But when spoilage complaints surge and cold chain problems emerge, nostalgia becomes a poor substitute for actual food safety. The cottage cheese looks the same as it always has. The brand feels familiar and trustworthy. But familiar does not mean safe, and trust must be earned with every single container. Why do you think dairy companies blame distribution when their products spoil? Should they not take responsibility for the entire journey from farm to fridge? And finally, at number 1, the worst cottage cheese brand for seniors to avoid: Highland Dairy Cottage Cheese. Highland Dairy operates across the southern and midwestern United States, supplying cottage cheese to grocery stores in Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, and surrounding states. Their red and white packaging is instantly recognizable to millions of shoppers. The brand has been around since 1938, building decades of consumer trust through consistent availability and competitive pricing. Nearly 90 years of dairy tradition. That should mean something. That trust has been seriously misplaced. Highland Dairy has the most concerning food safety record of any cottage cheese brand we researched. Multiple FDA warning letters, numerous consumer complaints, and a pattern of issues that should alarm any health-conscious senior. In 2018, Highland faced an FDA warning letter citing serious violations at their production facility. Inspectors documented inadequate sanitation procedures, improper temperature monitoring, and failures in their hazard analysis. Critical control point plans, the very systems designed to prevent contaminated food from reaching consumers. These are not minor paperwork errors. These are fundamental breakdowns in food safety. Let that sink in. The safety systems designed to protect you were not working properly, and the FDA had to formally intervene. For seniors, Highland Cottage Cheese presents a perfect storm of risks. Sodium levels in some Highland varieties exceed 500 milligrams per serving, among the highest in the industry. For anyone managing hypertension, heart disease, or kidney problems, this sodium load is actively dangerous. 2 servings could push you over half your daily limit before you have eaten anything else. Your cardiologist told you to watch your salt. Highland is making that nearly impossible. Kidney function naturally declines with age. By 70, most adults have lost significant kidney filtration capacity. High-sodium foods force already struggling kidneys to work harder, potentially accelerating decline and increasing the risk of chronic kidney disease progression. Every salty bite is another burden on organs that are already working overtime. But the sodium is almost secondary to the contamination risks. Consumer reports describe Highland Cottage Cheese with visible mold growth inside sealed containers. Others report a slimy texture and ammonia-like odor that indicates serious bacterial contamination. These are not isolated incidents. They represent a pattern of quality control failures that puts every container at risk. You open the lid expecting fresh curds and find something that looks like it belongs in a science experiment. The white curds floating in Milky Way should represent simple, healthy nutrition. Instead, they may be harboring listeria, salmonella, or other pathogens that can cause serious illness in vulnerable seniors. Symptoms might start as mild digestive upset, but can escalate to fever, dehydration, and for immunocompromised individuals, life-threatening systemic infection. Highland promised tradition, quality, and value. They promised cottage cheese made with care by people who understand dairy. But when FDA warning letters pile up and consumers find mold in sealed containers, those promises become lies printed on packaging. This is not about one bad batch. This is about systemic failures that put profits ahead of safety and leave seniors paying the price with their health. If butter can legally contain metal fragments, what else do you think slips through that we never even hear about? The cottage cheese industry clearly has similar issues that most consumers never discover. Ever noticed how these brands keep recalling but never really changing? Tell us about it in the comments. Cottage cheese is just the tip of the iceberg. These same bacterial risks, hidden sodium, and dangerous additives are in your yogurt, your cheese, your milk, every dairy product in your fridge. Scan the code. The Safe Food Guide shows you exactly what to avoid so you never risk listeria or contamination again. FDA warnings decoded. Safe brands ranked, just $4.99. Stop trusting labels that lie. Here are the 2 cottage cheese brands you can actually trust. The first safe option is Nancy's Organic Cottage Cheese. Nancy's has been producing organic dairy products since 1960, long before organic became a marketing buzzword. Their cottage cheese is USDA certified organic, made from milk, produced without synthetic hormones, antibiotics, or pesticides. But organic certification is just the beginning. Nancy's maintains exceptional food safety standards that exceed industry requirements. Their facilities undergo rigorous third-party audits, and their products consistently pass independent laboratory testing for bacterial contamination. The company has never faced an FDA warning letter, and consumer complaints about product quality are remarkably rare. When your track record is this clean for this long, it tells you something about priorities. For seniors, Nancy's offers crucial advantages. Sodium levels are among the lowest in the cottage cheese category, under 300 milligrams per serving in most varieties. The ingredients list is genuinely simple. Cultured organic milk, cream, and salt. No carrageenan. No locust bean gum. No mysterious thickeners that might cause digestive issues. What you read is what you get. The live probiotic cultures in Nancy's cottage cheese are clearly labeled with specific strains and counts, allowing immunocompromised seniors to make informed decisions in consultation with their doctors. Unlike brands that vaguely claim live cultures without specifics, Nancy's provides the transparency necessary for safe consumption decisions. The texture is creamy without being artificially thickened. The taste is clean and fresh without chemical undertones. And most importantly, the safety record demonstrates consistent commitment to consumer protection over profits. Nancy's costs slightly more than budget brands. But when your health is on the line, a few extra dollars buys peace of mind that no amount of savings can replace. The second recommendation is Organic Valley Cottage Cheese. Organic Valley is a farmer-owned cooperative representing over 1,700 family farms across the United States. Unlike corporate dairy giants focused on shareholder returns, Organic Valley exists to support sustainable farming while producing genuinely healthy products. Their cottage cheese stands out for several critical reasons. Organic Valley sources milk exclusively from pasture-raised cows that graze on organic land. The cows are never treated with synthetic hormones or routine antibiotics. This matters because antibiotic residues in conventional dairy products contribute to antibiotic resistance, a growing threat that particularly endangers seniors who may need these medications for serious infections. When you need antibiotics to work, residue exposure can make them less effective. The company maintains transparent supply chain tracking from farm to finished product. When you buy Organic Valley Cottage Cheese, you can actually trace which farms contributed to your specific container. This accountability creates incentives for quality that anonymous industrial production cannot match. Sodium levels are carefully controlled, with most varieties containing under 350 milligrams per serving. The ingredient list remains simple and clean, and the company's food safety record is excellent, with no significant recalls or FDA warning letters in their cottage cheese product line. Consumer reviews consistently praise Organic Valley Cottage Cheese for freshness, flavor, and quality. Unlike brands plagued by complaints about premature spoilage or off-putting textures, Organic Valley maintains remarkable consistency across production batches and distribution channels. The price premium is real. Organic Valley costs more than conventional options. But for seniors who understand that food is medicine, investing in genuinely safe cottage cheese is investing in your health, your independence, and your future. You now know which brands to avoid and which brands you can trust. This knowledge protects you every time you walk down the dairy aisle. Not all cottage cheese is created equal. Some can put your health at serious risk. Today, you learned the truth about 9 brands hiding dangers behind wholesome packaging. You learned about 2 brands you can actually trust. Subscribe now. And if you are watching on TV, tap your remote so you never get blindsided again.